This is Gieson with the Bay Area News Group, and this is Gamester, the most enthusiastic video game show on the internet. And we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of id Software. If you don't know who it is, I have to kick your ass because it is one of the most influential video game developers on the planet. But for the past few years, id Software has been pretty quiet. I mean, they've been working on a new engine for like what seems like forever. It's called id Tech 5. And the studio hasn't come out with a new franchise since Quake in 1996. Back in 1996, Bill Clinton was still president and the Xbox hadn't even come out yet. But that changes this week with the release of Rage. From the initial screenshots, it doesn't look too impressive. I mean, but once you see the game in motion, it's like satin for the eyes. Think of the softest puppy you've ever touched and just petting it. And that's what the game's like, smooth. The game runs at 60 frames per second, but what's impressive is that there's so much going on in the screen. The textures are gorgeously detailed. There's so many enemies on the screen, and there are weather effects impacting what you see. And even though there's all this stuff, the game there's never a hiccup. The game keeps a constant frame rate. A lot of casual gamers may not appreciate what they see on the screen, but it's a feat that should be applauded. With that said, the setting and the plot aren't that original. It's the normal post-apocalyptic fare. Think about Mad Max. It's really inspired by that. There's a giant asteroid that destroys Earth, killing billions of people, but you happen to be one of the few survivors. You're in this ark, and you're kept in stasis. You're supposed to wake up at a certain time and rebuild Earth, but something goes awry and that doesn't happen. You wake up as this advanced human being in this really primitive and brutal civilization. It takes a slight chance and takes a step or two outside of its comfort zone by building this open world game. It has different elements in it that you don't normally see in id games. First off, there's a racing portion in it, and there's a minor RPG element. But at its core, Rage is still a first-person shooter. I would say about 70% of the game is that. You go around and just shoot things. And that's a good and bad thing. Rage works to the strengths of id. They know how to make first-person shooters. They know how to do them well. But at the same time, it feels like they're going through the motions, man. You've played this corner shooter over and over again in Doom or Quake. There are some elements there where there are some boss battles and a few wide open environments, but that's few and far between. But what is notable is that how it handles death this time around and how it handles the racing mechanics. Let's take a look at death first. When you lose all your HP, you end up going into a mini game where you have a chance to keep your character alive. And that's because he has nanotrites in his body. These are little machines that let you regenerate health. And as long as you stay alive for a certain amount of time and let it recharge, you can go through the game without ever seeing a game over sign. So, as for the racing mechanics, it's really arcadey. Well, actually it's more like Mario Kart, but instead of firing turtle shells, you're shooting bullets and blowing up other cars. Normally you can go through the wasteland and destroy other vehicles, but there are also separate racing events. In a lot of ways, Rage is a streamlined version of Fallout with a little more action. Players can craft items, there's some item management involved. There isn't any leveling up per se, but players can do shop around town and they can take on missions. It's a very well crafted game, and technically it hits all the marks, but creatively, I wanted id to take more chances and do more things that would blow your mind, but they didn't do that, and that's why I'm giving them 3 out of 4 stars. I'm Gieson with the Bay Area News Group, and this is Gamester, and all I gotta say is snake, snake, snake! For vehicle upgrades. What are you doing with your leg, man?